Alright, welcome to the next part of the Modern Benoni Standard Plans. Alright, one very key standard plan in the Benoni is actually the plan which involves pawn to c4 from black. Right? Now, let's give me this example, pawn to c4. Now, one of the things with pawn to c4 is that it provides the square for the knight on c5, typically in these positions. But another thing that it also does is that it frees the diagonal a lot of times for our pieces to use, namely the queen. Alright, so in this example here, we're going to see that the queen can be used to take advantage of this diagonal due to the tempo of c4. Alright, so bishop takes c4, queen to b6 check, king h1, and knight g4. This is just a typical example of a tactic that's possible because of the c4 pawn advance. Pawn to a5, knight to f2 check, forking the queen and the king. Rook takes, queen takes. And black has just won the exchange and is going to have a better game. Now, let's look at another example. Alright, so here should be known pawn to c4. Now, as we explained before, the main points of pawn to c4 is to provide this nice square for the knight. So bishop c2, knight c5, and from this point here, right, the knight eyes very key squares into the opponent's position. One of the main points is added pressure on e4, and also the squares d3 and b3, which can become vital later on in the game. So let's see how it continues. Pawn to a5, knight to d7, pawn to f4, rook to e8, slightly more pressure on e4, king h2, and pawn to b5. I hope this is a normal move to my viewers of the first video. Pawn takes b6, queen takes b6, and here black has a supreme position in terms of his activity. So he has pressure down the b line, which puts this pawn in danger. So it's hard for this bishop to move. We have added pressure on e4, knights supporting each other. An idea here is to play rook e7 and rook e8 to continue putting pressure on the e4 pawn. And also, just to note that there is a very sweet diagonal for the g7 bishop to play on. Alright, so this is a very, very good position for black. Almost perfect as it relates to having a Benoni game. Alright, another typical position. I'm sure you should know the move that we should be looking to play here. Pawn to c4. Opening up the way for the knight to get to c5. rook to e1, knight to c5, going to the good square. Now, there's no bishop on c2, so what that means is now black has access to these two very weak squares for white. Pawn to e5, d takes e5, rook takes e5. And here, a very subtle move, but it was a very vital move to be made here, which was queen to d7. Now, queen to d7 looks like a normal move, but it's the plan behind it. The reason why I played queen d7 was so that the queen being on d7 firmly helps the plan of playing b5. Remember, in the Benoni, one of the key things we aim for is this b5 push. Usually when you get in that b5 push, you get a really good advantage, especially if it goes to the endgame. Rook to d1, knight to d3, jumping into that nice hole there. Rook e2, pawn b5, and we're living the dream now. Pawn b3, pawn b4, one takes, c takes b3, queen b4, rook e8, rook b8, and with this pass pawn here, black has a very, very nice advantage in this position. Alright, let's go to next example. Our final example. Alright, so should be aware of what the nice move here should be. Pawn to c4, activating our sweet knight. Bishop f4, knight c5, pawn to e5, typical from white, as we said in the structural chapter. That's white wants to play e5 in order to make this pawn pass. But here, black has this move, knight g4. It's another typical Benoni move, trying to use the knight to control the e5 square. Pawn to e6. Of course, e takes d6 wasn't optimal here because of knight to d3. Rook takes e8. Queen takes e8. And in addition to these ugly double pawns, of course, black has great pressure on f2, which will make his position crumble, not to mention our sweet dark square bishop. So here, f takes e6, d takes e6, and now knight to d3, putting pressure on f2, also pressure on b2. Knight g5, blunder from white, but now you can see how quickly things can turn for white once you give black active pieces. Queen b6, attacking everything. b2, f2, putting this queen on a great spot to attack all of white's weaknesses. Queen f3, probably was the best try. Now queen takes b2, bishop e5, trying for some tricks here for counterplay, but black can just play queen takes f2, and that will just end all the counter attack from white. Queen takes, knight takes, and this is just a very, very bad position for white. This is hanging, this is hanging, and we have this pass pawn to help us with our pursuits to glory. Alright, if you guys like that video, please subscribe. Please like and subscribe so that you can stay tuned for the next Benoni video that I'm going to post.